Hello and welcome to Windsor Solutions presents Improving from Normal, the podcast that showcases people, businesses, and organizations that are finding new and positive ways to impact either their communities, individuals one-on-one, or even the larger tapestry through which we are all threads. Coming up, you will be seeing an interview with Sandra Blythe, an author, speaker, and all-around fantastic person to talk to as she tells us about healing and forgiveness and how it can be applied to all aspects of our lives, both personally, interpersonally, and professionally. Now, before we start the program, I would like to tell you that we are doing something new here. We are starting a Patreon. That way people can access episodes early, listen or watch the episodes without ads, get bonus content, and get access to our Discord where we talk about exciting things like bookkeeping, marketing, places to showcase your business, and a platform for us to help each other past obstacles and find solutions. So, with that in mind, here is the interview with Sandra Blythe. Hello, Sandra.
Well, hello, Jonathan.
So you have been doing a lot lately.
I have. I have been busy rebranding and networking and preparing for collaboration. So I've been busy.
And publishing.
Publishing, yeah. See, so many things you can't remember what you left off your list.
Without giving away the secret sauce, tell me about your latest book.
My latest book, Getting to the Root of Forgiveness.
Yes.
If I was just to give you a very short version, it talks about the process of forgiveness. But I think what is probably the showstopper is that we also end up talking about the aftermath of forgiveness. So we're not only talking about the steps to take to forgive, we're also talking about once we've forgiven, how do we sustain, maintain, or can we continue to sustain that relationship? Sometimes even when we have forgiven, we discover that we can't coexist. We can't stay in that space together.
But still, it is important that closure happens on some level.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The closure can happen, but I think there are times when the wound is so deep that it's difficult to maintain the same level of closeness that one may have had prior to. I don't dislike you. I don't any longer not love you, but I'm understanding because of the wound of what's taken place, it's very difficult for us to maintain what used to be.
Okay. And I can see that applying to anyone.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, women, men, people in marriages. I was thinking about it over the weekend, and even professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've caught myself doing things throughout my career,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, this employer is great. There's nothing wrong in this environment. Why am I doing this? Why am I feeling this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of something that happened way back when.
Exactly. I think that's a tipping point when people start talking about forgive and forget.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to make the two hand in glove. Well, if you really forgive, then you'll forget. And the reality is, as humans, there's just some things you're not going to forget, but it doesn't define my forgiveness, right?
Ooh,
Because I didn't
profound.
forget, it doesn't mean I didn't forgive you. It just means, you know what, that was a deep cut. you
Yeah,
know that wasn't a band-aid, that was stitches. and
right, exactly.
you know so my recovery from that is going to look different. I think what can be important to understand when we get in that space of forgiving, forgetting, is to question yourself about what you would still be willing to do for that person. My mindset really is, I can forgive you, and we may have to change the dynamics of our relationship, but if there's a need, I am willing to rise to the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still cheering for your well-being. So I'm not going to be that person that says, well, no, because you hurt me, I'm not going to get you a loaf of bread, right?
Right.
Because you hurt me, I'm not going to take your daughter to the ER. That's the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not so much the forgetting, you
Right.
know, possibly, and this is no guarantee, but possibly in the process of time, maybe I will.
Right.
Maybe I will. I can't guarantee that,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe at somewhere down the road it dissipates. I don't think about it. I'm okay. The danger is when I'm remembering on a level that when I'm with you, I'm seething. Oh, I remember what Jonathan
Yeah.
said to me. Every time I see you, I'm just,
We won't discuss that this time.
right.
That's a special episode.
Right, right. But I think that's
Yeah.
the space where we have to be conscious, because if that's what we're still doing, that's not just about not forgetting. That is about not forgiving, because I'm still fighting through some very negative emotions when I'm around you, when I hear your name, when we're in the same environment. I have some very deep seated emotions that say, you haven't let this go.
Yeah.
You haven't let this go. Yeah.
And so that can be a very blurry line for people, forgiving and forgetting.
Yes.
How do you distinguish those two?
Yeah. And I think it kind of goes back to what we're talking about. It's gonna the I have to gauge how I'm engaging with you, right?
Right.
What does that look like after the forgiveness situation has taken place? How am I engaging? Is there attitude? Is there negativity? Am I going around telling everybody what you did to me and how wrong you are?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to align people with my way of thinking or have allies. How are we engaging at that point? When you talk about the forgetting, nobody can do anything with that.
Right.
That's an individual journey as to when and if I will forget it.
Right.
But I need to be very cognizant of how I'm treating you, because I think that becomes the marker for me to be able to say, I haven't forgiven this person. I mean, I when I'm around them, I can't stand it. you know, it's just, yeah. I think we're wise enough to know when we're still sitting in that space of unforgiveness,
Oh yes.
and the fact that we need to do some work on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, when people have offended you and hurt you, you can't undo it.
No.
They can't undo it. The falsehood is almost treating somebody with the expectation of them fixing it, and they can't.
No.
Whatever you said to me, I can't unhear it. You said it.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever's done, it's done. So when the apology comes, we have to understand, okay, this person is trying to make amends at some level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, But I think sometimes people do slip into that space of almost believing they can fix it. I need you to fix this. I need you to undo it, unsay it. I need you. It, and that's just not going to happen. And I know, and when we talk about how we talk to people, we
Yes.
need to be very conscious of how we talk to people, because there was a poet that said words are like a killing frost. So once you put it out there, the damage is done.
Yes.
And even though I may apologize for what I said, the reality is those words are still out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry is good,
Right.
but it doesn't take away those words. It doesn't take away the action. Everything is still there. So I have to figure out, as the person you've hurt or offended, I've got to figure out how to work through this so that I don't spend the vast portion of my life being upset with you, not
Right.
liking you, having ill feelings. I think the falsehood is that we feel like when we accept an apology, that we've made it easy for somebody. If I accept your apology, then you're getting away with it. You're winning. What are they winning?
What? Yeah.
Because accepting the apology heals you. It heals me. If I accept your apology, that's my healing. What you do or what you don't do going forward, I don't have any control over that.
Right.
But I can forgive you and allow myself to heal, let go of the baggage, not have to rehash and revisit and rehash. Just let's stop this. Let's get off the merry-go-round. I'm over it. I love when people forgive without being asked, without somebody saying, "Will you forgive me?" And you're like, you know what? When you did that, I was over it.
Right.
Like, oh, really? You were? Yeah. Life's too short. I don't have that kind of energy.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. So when you take it to that other side of the spectrum, people who hold stuff, right?
right.
That once you hurt me, you better watch out.
Yeah.
And it's been 10 years and they're still not speaking. They're still telling people how they've been broken and hurt and all of these things that you've done to them. And you're like, we're 10 years in.
Right. I mean, at that point, I would ask, well, how deeply were you hurt? Number one. I mean, and two, how can we free up room in your heart and head because
Mhm.
of whatever hurt you that's been living there rent free?
I love it. I love it. But Jonathan, I think that becomes part of it as well, is not having conversations. We don't talk about it. We talk around it, but
Yes.
we don't talk about it. And the truth is, sometimes it's going to take multiple conversations.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a one and done. We talk about this one time and everybody's healed. We feel good. Let's hug it out. There are some things, like you said, the depth may position us to have multiple conversations, because
Yeah.
originally I may not even have the answers to say, this is what we can do to make this better. Originally, I may not even know what I need, you
Right.
know, but the more we talk, it may become clear. Okay, this is what I need. I need this, I need that. We just got to be honest with each other. We got to be more open. We got to be more communicative. Whatever it is, these are the things I need. Sometimes when we're hurt, we don't know what we need. So everybody's
Right.
stuck. Like I said, the apology is great, but that's just the tip of the iceberg,
Yeah.
because there's still work that needs to be done, and we have to have that clarity that the work that needs to be done has nothing to do with you fixing anything. It's not about you fixing anything.
Right.
But I think, to your point about talking about it, I think that's hard for people because
It
it's
is.
uncomfortable. And
Yes.
you're asking me to be vulnerable. You're asking me to be transparent. You're asking me to go outside of my comfort zone.
Right. Mhm.
Right.
And taking responsibility for my words or actions means I have to acknowledge that I hurt you. And for a lot of people, pride is a very tall wall to get over.
Oh my gosh. It's the pride, it's the arrogance. Sometimes people are just very narcissistic. So that's a double down on this
Oh
whole
yeah.
situation. But yeah, when you say words like responsibility and accountability, that is hard for more people than we probably realize. It's hard. It's easy if we have a conversation and you say, well, Sandra, you hurt me. And I say, well, Jonathan, you remember last week when you did, or you said, because now I got to gaslight this.
Right.
I need to get away from holding on, being accountable, taking responsibility and saying, Jonathan, you're right. I just shouldn't have said that. That is hard for people to do.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'm not saying I'm above it by any means.
Yeah. Yeah. I
it,
think we can slip into it
it's
if we're not
hard.
careful. Yeah. 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 Because I think again, the I don't want to say the icing, the layer to that is our discomfort, how uncomfortable it is for me to say, I was wrong. I was.
Mm,
I know that hurt you. I should have never said that. I don't know what I was thinking. Right.
right.
That especially if you are a prideful person.
Yeah.
If you're a prideful person, forgiveness and these kind of conversations we're talking about, 10 times out of 10, it's just not going to happen. And have you ever heard somebody say something like, after you've expressed your hurt, why you're hurt, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll say, well, I'm sorry if you feel that way.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Okay.
It's like
It,
you're
like,
apologizing that I'm feeling something which is somehow wrong.
well,
Uh,
and and I think it's supposed to be a form of apology. But if
mm,
you think about what that person said, it's not an apology. All they said is, "I'm sorry if you feel that way."
yeah.
What?
That's like saying, "Oh well, it's your fault."
Yeah, you might need to work through that.
Like, no, that's not.
Is that not it? Am I missing the connection? But yeah, so when you have people that say things like that, again, it's a form of pride.
Hmm.
I'm really not willing to take responsibility for what I've done. Hey, if you feel that way, I'm sorry that you. Yeah,
That's not an apology.
yeah. Forgiveness, I think, takes a lot of work,
Hmm.
and it has to be intentional because we can make apologies that are very superficial.
Yes.
It's almost, out of obligation. If somebody says, "Oh," after you say you hurt me, and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Well, that's because that's what you expected me to say, so I went ahead and said it. But there's a level of disingenuousness to it.
Yes.
I did something out of obligation. That's what you expected me to say. I said it. Let's move on. However,
Yes.
the,
Yes.
the problem with that is chances are I'm going to be a repeat offender. I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to hurt you, and very possibly in the same way that I hurt you before,
Hmm.
because I wasn't even sincere about it. So it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Didn't we have this conversation?
Right.
And here we are again. Here we are again. We're there again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are the moments where I think when people are repeatedly offending and you're trying to have the conversation, how you've hurt me, those are times when I think you really have to make a decision to remove yourself from that space because this person is just going to keep offending you. They're going to keep hurting you. And it's not good for you mentally. It's not good for you emotionally. It's just not good.
Right.
It's kind of one of those things when people show you who they are, believe them. You know, hey, we
Yes.
keep having this conversation and he keeps violating me or he keeps offending me. And,
Mhm.
how many times do I do this until I say, this is just not healthy for me?
Yeah. So when you talk about forgiveness in workshops or presentations,
Mhm.
who do you find in your audience? What's your audience made of? Is it mostly women, mostly men? Is it professionals? Is it
It has been to date mostly women.
okay?
Yeah.
All right. And are they trying to think? Have they expressed to you the specifics of what they are trying to get at through forgiveness?
The last
You don't have
workshop
to
that
name names or anything.
oh no, no, no. No, we can't do that. What I did in the last workshop that I did for forgiveness that was in person, I actually took a poll
Okay.
and I wanted to know A, who was struggling with forgiveness, B, was it you forgiving yourself, or C, was it you forgiving other people, or
Mm-hmm.
D, is it both? Right? I found there were more people in that group that were struggling with forgiving themselves than anything
Wow.
else. Yeah. Yeah. So you had these people who were in this struggle of trying to forgive themselves because we can be our worst critic.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
we can do things in our life that may not have been right, but it's not life threatening, so to speak. And I'm not trying to downplay it, but I
Right.
think it's the way that we magnify it in our own brain that this was terrible. I'm a terrible person. I can never forgive myself. You don't know what I've done.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't need to know just to realize that you owe it to yourself to forgive yourself. you know. And I think when people start having those conversations, because as I'm going forward doing workshops about forgiveness, I'm becoming more of a fan of breaking it down to small groups
Mm-hmm.
where they can interact. Because then you discover you haven't cornered the market, right? You're not the
Right.
only one in the world who's done something wrong, and you're not the only one in the world struggling to forgive yourself. And I think when people have that moment together to support one another, it doesn't look as bad. It's like, oh my gosh, because I really thought I was the only person going through this.
Right.
Like, no,
No.
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 Yeah, but the forgiving yourself, I think, has been, like I said, one of those larger spaces where people are like, I'm just struggling with it. It's terrible. It's like, oh man, you can walk through this thing.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, and I was in a household where you know dropping an egg or spilling some milk was treated with the same severity as wrecking a car or burning down the house.
Mhm.
Not that those last two ever happened, that they can prove, but
Right. Plausible deniability.
so
Continue on.
so probably until I was 30 or so, I could not distinguish the severity of me messing up.
Mm,
Uh, so
yeah.
if I accidentally cut someone off in traffic, or um, didn't hold the elevator door at the last second or something like
Yeah.
that, I'd feel miserable for weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would avoid that person
Right.
because, I just did the most horrible thing ever.
Right. 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 But the interesting thing is you have some connection. You understand where it came from,
Right.
right? That can be helpful. That,
Yes.
you know what? I know where this stems from, so I'm going to have to work on a mind shift where I see this differently,
Right.
right? Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that messing up is not like a light switch on or off. You're either not
Mhm.
messing up or you're messing up.
Right.
It's a dimmer switch. It's like, oh, maybe you messed up a little. Okay, this is new. Or
Right.
you messed up a lot. Okay, I'm familiar with that one. But but like there are degrees.
Mhm.
And I've met a lot of people over the course of my life who felt similarly.
Mhm.
And now I'm going to go back and look them up and tell them to go to your workshops.
Mhm.
And speaking of, you have a couple of things coming up on the calendar, don't you?
I have a couple of things coming up. Actually, I'm doing two collaborations.
Okay.
So I have one coming up in September. That's September the 15th.
Okay.
The Me I Need to Be,
Hmm.
with the subtitle Taking the Exit.
All right.
Um, yeah, so that one is with an organization called Shiro Empowered,
Okay.
with Franya Isley, who is a recovery divorce counselor. So
Okay.
she's going to be talking about the transitioning of going through divorce and the emotional part that comes with it. Then I'm going to tag in and I'm going to take care of the taking the exit. That's that moment where I'm going to be addressing forgiving yourself,
Yeah.
forgiving your ex-spouse. I have personally gone through a divorce, so I know you can have those moments where you feel like you failed and you did this wrong and you did that wrong. And oh, if I would have just done it better, if I would have done this better, that's a lot of stuff to carry. So we want to we want to try and unpack some of that so that people can walk away and kind of break that chain of self-blaming, you know, how everything was my fault or how the majority of it was my fault. And even down to forgiving an ex-spouse. I know for some people they probably be like, hmm, right. But as I was saying earlier about forgiveness, it really is a healing. It's a
Yeah.
freeing. And when you think about it, holding people hostage over things that they have done, it's just a lot of energy,
Yeah.
and it's just not worth it.
And
No.
what you just said um, made me think of something. Why would I want to hold someone hostage that I don't want to be around in the first place? Right?
Oh, I get it. I get it.
But people do that.
Well, because I
Uh,
think not forgiving for some people, if I don't forgive you, then I'm hurting you. I'm hurting you because I'm not forgiving you. Most of these people that were holding hostage in the realm of not forgiving, they've gone on about their business.
right.
They're not even thinking about what you're thinking about. So it's of no consequence to them. You know, it's kind of like people have always used the example. It's like you drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Oh my God.
Right. It's like,
I mean, that's
what?
horrible, but it's brilliantly accurate.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. So if you want to live well, if you want to be healthy mentally, emotionally, and even physically,
Mm-hmm.
learn to let things go, forgive. It
Yeah.
is what it is. And I know it sounds so easy. And like I said, it's a process. So it's not momentary. Okay, all I got to do is forgive him and no, it's going to be a process. But when it's intentional, that's when you're going to see the growth and development. It's intentional when I'm doing this.
Right.
But so that's one, and that's a virtual workshop, just to throw that in there. I have another one coming up October the 6th with Todd's Health Zone,
Okay.
and that's Todd Cheek. So we're going to do release and recalibrate.
Oh.
So he's going to talk about weight loss, nutrition, all
Mm-hmm.
those things that we really do need to be doing. I'm going to come behind him and do acknowledging your worth and walking in your value. So it'll still tie in because I'm going to talk about the struggles that we have in terms of why we won't go forward. Sometimes people don't pursue losing weight because of how they see themselves. They don't see themselves worthy to lose weight, or the motivation is not there. So I'll get into some things that'll kind of pull it together, but
Mm-hmm.
there'll definitely still be a piece of that forgiveness that we're going to have to address to see if we can help shift some thoughts.
Oh, that all goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And because I'm thinking about it, because you wouldn't know it by looking at me, but yes, I have lost weight. um,
Good for you.
but uh, the toughest part was, um, forget the mindset to move forward and lose weight. It all had to do with the way deep down I saw myself and was valuing myself. And I was like, look, um, it finally came down. I finally bullied myself. I hate to use that term. Financially, I was like, you're going to have to spend a ton of money on new clothes that are bigger, or we can go back to wearing the stuff we used to enjoy that we
Right,
thought made us look stylish.
right, right. Whatever method it took, that's all.
So, when are people going to be able to, I guess, sign up or buy tickets to attend these?
um, August the 14th,
Okay.
uh, registration will open up on August 14th. What would be even better if they can follow my website.
Mm-hmm.
That's mkt.com/Robnick dash enterprise. And I
Okay.
will continuously keep things out there. But August 14th will be registration starting for the September workshop.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And I will put so many links.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
the what I have been enjoying, and I've almost gotten in the habit of it at this point. I wake up, I don't drink coffee, but I get a glass of water and maybe some fruit, sit down as I'm waking up. Your prelude videos that you have posted on Facebook
Yeah.
are incredible. And I advise
Thank
anyone
you.
listening or watching to go check those out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And then if they make you think, if you have a response, attend one of Sandra's workshops.
Yeah, we're going to keep the workshops going. It's growing, and I'm making connections that I never thought I would make. And so people are like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "Okay."
I
So
think it's
here we go.
fantastic.
Yeah, so that's good.
It,
Yeah.
mm, yes, and I'll also link to your books because I advise everyone to get them and read them. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Now, Getting to the Root of Forgiveness was my first
Yeah.
personal development book, but the other three, and I always try to explain this because I know sometimes when people hear the word poems or poetry, they're thinking like, "Oh, roses are red, violets are
Yeah.
blue." No,
No.
these three books, yeah, these three books are life lessons.
Hmm.
So I have poetry in different colors, The Silence is Too Loud, and Bending While Standing on Breaking. These are true blue life lessons, poetically written. And I would encourage folks to go out to the website, purchase the books. I
Yes.
think you're going to be pleasantly surprised what is actually in those books.
Yes. And what I like about them is I can look at a lesson and maybe it'll take me a couple of minutes to read one of them.
Hmm.
And then I find myself throughout the day turning that lesson around in my mind and thinking about it. And oh, yes, this applies to my life here and back
Um,
here.
okay.
And I can see it coming up over the horizon. I may need to address this. And,
Okay.
and like
Okay.
it they're almost meditations.
Okay.
I love
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Now, one of my girlfriends, she has all of them. And she says, depending on the kind of day she had at work,
Hmm.
she'll come home and she'll say, okay, I'm going to look at The Silence is Too Loud. She'll look at the titles. I think I need to read that one. And
Yeah.
she says she'll sit and read it and just almost to what you're saying, I'll read it and then I'll kind of meditate about it. And I was like, well, thank you for sharing that because I had no idea, so it's kind of like folks are using it as reference points or maybe that thing that brings me calm. I
Yeah.
need to be calm now. Like, okay, then it's doing what it's supposed to do.
But yeah, I mean, I encourage everyone to get all of your books. I encourage everyone to at least attend the virtual event if they can't get out to the in-person one.
Hmm.
And just everything you do is so applicable to I can't think of a single person who cannot benefit from what you are teaching,
Hmm.
whether they're dealing with family life or relationship or even the politics of work.
Hmm.
Oh, someone got promoted instead of you.
Right. Oh gosh.
Or,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
or, or you got promoted and they're no longer your friend.
Okay. I hear you. I hear you. It's real.
Yeah,
It's real.
it
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah.
is. And what you, your words, especially in the way you write them, because you phrase everything so poetically. It is like, um, now I can't think of the word for it, but if I got a bad bite or something, an infection.
Mm,
I would put it on, and it would just pull out the toxins.
hmm.
And that is how I feel when I read your words.
Well, good.
Uh,
It's oftentimes it has been very therapeutic for me.
mm-hmm.
And everybody always laughs when I say this. As a rule, I am an introvert, not an extrovert. People don't want to believe this. They debate it with me, but it is true.
Mm-hmm.
But I was saying that to say, um, as I began to write these books, it helped me to get a voice. You know, I found my voice in writing the books, because a lot of it is personal. You know, it's not always something I saw, it was something I lived.
Mm-hmm.
So I was more effectively able to write it and put it on, put it on the pages. The first book, Poetry in Different Colors, had a lot of relationship poetry in it. And my girlfriends just, they laughed so hard. I was like, I had broken up with somebody and I just had a lot to say. And I just started writing. And I started writing. Next thing I knew, I was like, I probably need to publish this book because there's just a lot going on.
Yes.
But that was a moment for me that again helped me find my voice, because I did a couple of different book signings, and people would say things like, "You're telling my story," and I'm like, "Okay." Now remember, this is the first book, so I'm like, "Okay." So he's like, "Oh no, I've got to get this book because that's about me and my husband." Okay. So that's for me a confirmation I was on the right track. I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, this is your calling. This is what you want to do. And I enjoy it. It never feels burdensome
Mm-hmm.
if I'm writing. I can just like go into a zone and I'm just writing. I'm just writing. And it's nice when you know that people have benefited, because I'm like, if it's just one person that says, "Hey, this really helped me," I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. Now, if nobody's benefiting, Houston, we got a problem.
Right. Right. Right.
But when you realize people are benefiting from what you're doing, you just want to keep doing it.
Of course. I mean, whether intentional or not, and the first one sounds like it was almost unintentional. You
Jonathan, I had a lot on my chest. I just had to get it out. Just had to get it out.
but you tapped into a lot of universal truths.
Right. Right. Now, I'm going to tell you that to top off the story about the first book.
Uh,
So, just got out of this really bad relationship. I'm writing all these poems. Fast forward a couple years later,
mm,
the person I'd had a breakup with had got a hold of the book, and we hadn't spoken in a while. And he said, I read your book, and I feel like you were talking about me. And the only thing I said was, "Really?" And that concludes the first book. But see what happens? People know. I nowhere in that book did I ever mention that person's name.
mm-hmm.
But when they read the book, they said, "I feel like you were talking about me." I'll let you draw your own conclusions.
Do you currently have a new book in the works?
I do.
Ooh.
I do. I do. Right now, I am calling it Shaking the Shadows.
Okay.
Subject to change, but right now I'm feeling Shaking the Shadows.
Okay.
But the core behind that is releasing your past and releasing yourself from your past. past,
Mm-hmm.
and then the creating or reinventing that new you. So
Oh, I
how do we
like that.
navigate through, you know, how do we navigate through letting go of our past and opening ourselves up to that new you or that reinvention of you? Because I think it's hard. I think for most people, there are certain parts of your past that you're trying to shake or you need to shake.
Right.
And it's just trying to find out what's the, how do you do it? What medication should I be on to do this? Not literal medication,
Right.
but
No, I understand what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah. So what do I need to do to let go of my past? And it can be very detrimental for us when we hold on to our past. We can misjudge situations because we're always thinking about the past.
Yep.
We can misjudge people
Oh, yes.
because we think that everybody is that guy or everybody's that woman,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not.
No.
But when we hold on to our past, that's all we can see is the past.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, let's talk about this and see where we land if we can let go.
Yeah.
Maybe not completely, but we're going to see what we
Yeah.
can do.
Keep the lessons, but understand that this person's a completely different person from this person. Now, if you see similarities and they're genuinely there, yeah, maybe be a little cautious.
See, and I love that you say that because I think that really is the slippery slope, is identifying if what I'm seeing is what I'm really seeing.
Right.
you know Otherwise I'm just maybe allowing my past to play mind games with me.
Exactly. I was just going to say our past could
Yeah,
play some devious tricks on
yeah,
us.
yeah, because your brain is saying, oh no, you remember what it was with Henry. You remember
Right.
Henry did that. You remember Susan said, and you're like, yeah, yeah, you're right,
And
you're right.
that's why Henry and Susan never come over anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it is, like I said, it's that slippery slope of finding a way to have clarity
Hmm.
and not, um how do I want to say it? Not run people off that have done you no wrong.
Right.
It's just it's what you have, that baggage that you continue to carry is affecting your relationships.
And
You know,
sometimes before they even start.
that's it right there. And when our past is baggage. So when we're carrying it, and I was sharing this with somebody, we were having a conversation, and I think it's true. Any relationship you go into, you bring baggage.
Yes.
You don't come in baggage free like, hey, I know you got some, but I don't. It's like, no, we all bring
Oh
something.
yeah. Oh yeah. We're fully packed for this trip.
Yeah. So see, then that becomes part of the journey is how to unpack it without me trying to make that your baggage.
Right.
How do I unpack this? It'd be good if I could unpack it before I get to you,
Hmm.
but it doesn't always happen.
No, and sometimes, and I'm going to say rarely. And again, I'm not. I am. How do I put this? You're the expert, and I work in a field that is not yours, right? I've seen on occasion throughout my life maybe two couples um, engage in helping each other unpack a couple of bags that were being pretty stubborn.
Hmm. Right, right, right. No, I understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it it almost okay. I'll ask the question: have you ever given workshops for couples?
I have not. It's interesting that you asked me that because I had gone to a lectureship in Atlanta maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
I'm going to say 2 years ago because I was promoting the book. And I had two different guys, which was strange to me that it was men. And they, had the book and was looking at it and talking to me. And he says, I really would like my wife to do this book with me. Because the book, Getting to the Root of Forgiveness, it has reflection questions at the end of each chapter. And really, those questions, for the most part, put you to work. There's some stuff you're going to have to do. It's not just, oh, let me fill something in. There's some work you have to do. And he said, yeah, I really would like my wife, to do this with me. And I could tell he was trying not to get into the particulars.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, we've got some forgiveness things that have happened in the past. And I think this would be great for us. And in my brain, I'm like, oh my gosh, it so would. And I remember telling him, I said, if you can let me know how this goes, I'd appreciate it. Unfortunately, I didn't hear any follow up. But then I had another guy who did a similar thing. He was like, oh, I love this. I love how you did this. And I'm going to see if my wife will do this with me. And I'm like, this could be something a married couple could do, or a couple, could do if there are issues. So, yeah, it's just funny that you said that because it crossed my mind like, wow.
I think that speaks volumes because, and I'm not going to, I'm going to be painting with a broad brush here, but if two men spoke up about something this emotional and how good it could be to work through these things, then that means there's at least 30 million who aren't speaking up.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah. We don't want to be sensitive. Yeah, you need to unpack that, don't you? You don't need to be carrying around all that luggage.
But it goes back to what we said earlier about communication, and we avoid it because it's not comfortable. It takes us out of our comfort zone. It positions us to be vulnerable, transparent, all the things that we don't want to be because there's a level of fear to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. It is, we are socialized not to be vulnerable. Or let me be more specific, because I'm not being specific right now. We are taught to equate expressing our needs, wants, and feelings with being vulnerable and weak.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they are not the same thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Vulnerability has zero to do with being weak.
No. Hi.
Yeah.
How do I feel right now? I feel hungry. But if I don't express I feel hungry, ain't no food coming my way.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Or
yeah.
I feel, oh, let's go with forgiveness. I feel hurt. Someone hurt me. Well, if I do not stop and express this, at least take the first step to acknowledge, hey, so-and-so, you hurt me. Then what happens? That person keeps doing it without knowing that they're hurting you. Or maybe they're doing it and they do know. But you're not speaking up, so they're just going to keep on doing it. You haven't drawn a line. And I being the person who keeps getting hurt and hurt and hurt and hurt. I'm just quietly building up a level of resentment,
Yes,
and this relationship can't move forward.
exactly. Exactly. And I think one of the key things that you were saying is sometimes when we don't communicate that we've been hurt,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the person on the other side may not see it, but we assume and we say, "Oh, she knows she hurt me." She really doesn't. He
No.
knows he hurt. They don't know. They really don't know. So it's okay to have the conversation to find out they did know. Okay, that's
Right.
okay. But it's better when I communicate to you when you said when you did that hurt my feelings. Okay, now let's go. Because what I may hear is that person say, I am so sorry. I had no idea. I had no idea
Right.
that hurt you. Or they may even take it another step and say, I am so sorry you were hurt, but I didn't mean it that way. What I was saying when I said what I said is X, Y, and Z. So now I misinterpreted what you said. And in that misinterpretation, my feelings got hurt. That's why we keep coming back to the
Right. Yeah.
communication, because I'll hear something, become hurt, not say anything, go down and talk to John and say, I can't believe Jonathan said that to me. Well, what just happened? Because when I heard what I thought I heard and my feelings got hurt, in that moment, I have to say, okay, Jonathan, what I think I heard you say is dot, 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 dot,
Mm-hmm.
and it hurt my feelings. Now you can stop this whole thing. Sandra, that is not what I meant. I am so sorry that you were hurt by that, but this is what I was actually saying to you. We're done. It's over. I don't
That's
have to
right.
go tell anybody anything. I'm not hurt. I understand I misinterpreted what you said, and we're good. But
Yeah.
oftentimes people won't do that. They will allow that hurt to override the logic of saying, I need to get clarification because I may have not heard this correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
So we could save ourselves some hurt,
yeah.
some time and energy if we would just catch it in the moment.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to catch it in the moment.
Yeah. Listening and communicating
Right.
are,
Yeah,
are can diffuse bad feelings so quickly.
it really can.
Uh,
And our hurt sometimes is built on expectations as well, right?
yes.
We expected something, we didn't get it, we're hurt. Well, why are you hurt? Because I expected it. Well, did they tell you? I have to
Yeah.
tell this story.
Mm-hmm.
Funny story. I was doing a workshop and I was talking about unconfirmed expectations, right?
Okay.
This is with a group of women. And I gave them this scenario. I said, so here's the scenario. I said, your girlfriend calls you up and she says, hey, me and Tom have been dating for a long time. He says he wants to take me out for a special dinner. I think he's going to pop the question. That's what I think he's going to do. Okay. So your girlfriend and Tom go out to dinner and, he's just elated about the relationship and he gives her a tennis bracelet. And so
Okay.
she goes back home. She calls you up and she says, do you know he had the audacity to give
Yeah.
me a tennis bracelet? And she is just angry. And I said, what happened? I'm asking the group. I said, what
Right.
happened? And they said, well, she was expecting an engagement ring. And I said, but why was she expecting an engagement ring? I said, let me finish my backdrop. I said, the backdrop is they've never discussed marriage. There was never a time frame. You know, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to date for 3 years and we're going to get married. I said, so none of these markers were given. None of them. That was a story you wrote in your head that when he said, I want to take you out for a special dinner, that something in your head said, oh, this is it. You know, we've been together 4 years. This is it. He's going to ask me. He said, it's a special dinner. I said, but all of the expectation that you had was unconfirmed. There was nothing to draw from. And now you're hurt and you feel like he should do what? Because in his mind, back to what we were talking about, being hurt, not communicating that I'm hurt, what you have to realize is you set up some expectations that had never been confirmed. Your hurt is really not based on anything he did. Now, people would disagree and say, oh, yes, it is, but it's not. He never told you any of the stuff that you wrote in your head, the phone calls you made. That's all you.
Right.
But you're angry.
Yes. Yep.
Why are you angry? I got the blues in that workshop. They were trying to come up with all these different spins to the story. And I'm like, no, it was unconfirmed expectations.
Yep.
You can't expect somebody to apologize for a narrative that you wrote.
Right.
That was your narrative. That was never that other person's narrative. That was yours.
How many people knew this story? Not just me in my head.
And the person I called on the phone and told them, hey, I think this is what's going to happen. That's when you move with caution because you have no confirmation.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. That's. Yeah, I can't even say that I am completely innocent of that one. Oh, I think they're going to.
And by all accounts, it looks like it.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't? Those jerks.
Well, see, that's why I had to do, I wrote a poem and I called it, It's Not People Who Disappoint, It's Your Expectations.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I kind of put the icing on it and I said, it's your unconfirmed expectations is really what it is. So our disappointment is built around unconfirmed expectations. And it's hard to own that. Like, oh, so-and-so really disappointed me. Let's talk about it. How did they disappoint you? Is it any indicators, any markers that they gave you that helped you build that expectation? Or is that a narrative that you wrote? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I guess I kind of. Gotta be careful.
Did they say they were going to propose and then hit you with a tennis bracelet? Or did you say they were going to propose without telling them?
Exactly. Oh gosh.
I always love talking with you.
Well, it has been a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure is mine and to anyone watching or listening.
Yes.
First, go to Sandra's website. You'll see all the links in the show notes. And I want you to go to her website. I want you to get all of her books. I want you to, in August, sign up for at least one of her events. And in the meantime, I want you to watch and or listen to the preludes that she has posted on her Facebook page, because they're going to get you thinking. They're going to get you thinking of maybe you'll see something in a different light. Maybe it'll bring up thoughts and feelings that you didn't even know were there. And then you'll find a deeper meaning at Sandra's workshops and in her books. Is that fair?
That's fair. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan. I appreciate you.
And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. This has been another episode of Improving from Normal, a Windsor Solutions production. To learn how you can support this and other episodes, visit our sponsors or check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Windsor Solutions. Until then, have a great day.